Okay, here we go. All right. Hey everyone, I'm Andrew Guidarelli. I'm the Partnerships Manager at Tuck. For those of you that may not know who we are, we're a management consulting firm that specializes in IT project management for small, we say emerging small to medium sized businesses and nonprofits. In today's session, we're going to be talking with Alex, our managing principal and namesake, and our favorite partner, two of our favorite partners, Dalil Allison from Brooks DM and Jay Agner from JDAQA. We're featuring Dalil and Jay specifically because of their abilities to build large partner networks, co-sell, and win as a team. In the SaaS world, this is called ecosystem-led growth. Shout out to Bob Moore. But we're trying to bring this mentality to the IT professional services side of the world. Gents, can we go around and give little overviews of our companies? Let me start with Dalil.
Yep, I'm Dalil Allison, CEO, co-founder Rick's DM. Our company is focused around helping firms be as efficient as possible. So we do a lot of work around workflow automation, business process improvement. We're Microsoft partners, so most of the work that we do is either built on or integrated with the Microsoft ecosystem. And broadly, we're servicing professional service organizations that are looking to scale and grow their business or just to become much more efficient than they are today. Thank you for having me.
Clearly. Jay, how about you go next?
Yeah, so we are a software testing consultancy based out of Bucks County, PA. We help custom software development shops and SaaS companies, specifically high growth SaaS companies, with their QA processes, people, and strategy. We've got around 60 folks located in the United States. We've got a team in the Philippines, and we are all in on partnerships. And yes, I love the shout out to Bob Moore, one of my favorites. So thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Alex, is there anything I didn't cover about your company?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. 60-person project management consultancy focused on four key verticals: healthcare, IT professional services, nonprofit, and digital product. And I'll just say, like Jay, Dalil, thanks for joining us today. You guys are such awesome partners. You really slot in on both sides of where we live, right? Like we're in the project management space, and then whenever a client needs like testing, like quality assurance, I know to reach out to Jay, and then Dalil just on the Microsoft side, also being Microsoft partners. It's just awesome to have you there to work on the automation side. So thank you both for joining.
Right. That's a great segue into our first question about when have we seen partnerships add value to a client? I think, Alex, you obliquely referenced one of Jay's projects. So, Jay, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I mean, anytime we need project management, obviously we go to Alex, but I mean, it expands to our portfolio of partners. I mean, we have device procurement companies, a lot of software development agencies, since that's who we work with primarily, marketing firms, et cetera, et cetera. Basically, any function that any of our clients could need, we typically have a pretty good recommendation for them. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, but it is added value that they have that kind of a vetted option available to them. And another kind of benefit for us is we've brought in, some of our folks to interview, different candidates for different people, even for some of our clients that say, hey, we need to hire a really good sales guy. And so we should run that person by our sales agency owner. And that's yielded really good results. So there's a lot of different kind of tertiary benefits, not direct, benefits sometimes of working with the client, but just having that network around kind of gives you a little bit of an all-encompassing approach when you engage with some of these clients.
Absolutely. Dalil, do you have any instances you could share with us of when a partnership that you developed added value to a client?
Yeah, so I sit a lot on the account management side of things. So I'm always looking to see, hey, what challenges are our clients facing? And a lot of times it may not be on the stuff that we help them provide. So to Jay's point, having a vetted um, amount of people available to help solve your client's needs is important because you might have a conversation. They might be like, hey, I'm looking for a great accountant, or I'm looking for someone to help run my projects because I'm not as efficient as I should be. So having those vetted people in your network is very important because it helps ultimately with the clients that you're serving. And then it gives them the ability to trust you more of like, oh, if I have a challenge, I know Dalil or Jay or Alex or Andrew can help me solve that. And they have tried and true and trusted people that would help me overcome the challenges that I'm facing. And I think that for me, I've seen that to work tremendously because then clients will think of me for a lot of their challenges and then always come to me and be like, hey, who do you know that can help me solve X? And I think you just become a trusted network for them.
Sure. Okay. Alex, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, God, most people think about partnerships only on like the revenue generation side, right? And they're like, oh, well, I can get a referral fee, or I can, get new deals in my pipeline. And I'm not gonna lie, like that is definitely helpful. When you have a larger partner network, deals come in. 80% of our deals in the first 2 quarters of the year came from partnerships. But more importantly, what creating a partner ecosystem allows for us to do at Tuck is we're often sitting right in the C-suite, right? We're trusted partners for all of our clients, and oftentimes they're small companies, and they could go out to RFP and try to find a QA company or like a software development company, but like it's crazy. Like everyone knows, like you don't get the best candidate out of that. You get the best salesperson or the best proposal writer out of that. And so for us, we build out our partnership ecosystem to allow for us to have people. Our first check, Andrew, you know this, you're lead of partnerships. Our first check is, are we values aligned, right? Are we going to treat our clients the same way? Jay and Dalil, I know for a fact, treat their clients the same way, treat their partners the same way. And so by helping your clients like just jumpstart their search and maybe introducing them to a handful of partners that you really trust in a particular space, like that's huge. I mean, like I brought Jay in at Diathrive. Dalil and I have like worked with multiple Microsoft partners together. So, it's a testament just to the power of partnerships.
True that. So this one, Jay, you hit on something that I wanted to touch on a little more, is that like simplifying the number of choices your client has to make, which means that you have to pre-vet the partner. So what are you looking for in the partner organizations that JDA QA works with?
Well, I mean, I think the values alignment is key, and we certainly don't have probably as defined of a partnership program, which we're working on that Tuck does, and we've kind of used that as a little bit of a blueprint for ours. But I think the overarching question that we ask ourselves, obviously, after we figure out, do these people treat their clients and more importantly, sometimes their own employees the way that we do? Do they serve the same customers that we do? Right? Like there's no reason why two organizations that are values aligned that serve a similar or the same customer shouldn't at least explore the opportunity of partnerships. Just having the ability to get warm introductions and give warm introductions to people who may benefit from your services is kind of a no-brainer. And I think, Alex's numbers there, 80% of your deals coming from partnerships in the first 2 quarters, I think is a testament to that exact thing, where if you have values alignment and then customer alignment, those two things are, kind of the table stakes. And then you can get into, like you mentioned also, Alex, deal size and percentages and incentives and all sorts of stuff like that. That's really down the road. It's really, can we, as two similar organizations serving the same group of people, help leverage both sides of that equation for our customers and for our partners?
Yeah, and I think on a related note, so we're all here talking about like professional services organizations because that's our angle. That's what we all do. But I think there's also a discussion we had about like how do we pick our channel relationships, right? And I think Dalil, you're a Microsoft partner. So what are you looking for when you're looking for like a channel, a software partner to work with?
Yeah, so for us, Microsoft partners are great. I know Alex mentioned they were a Microsoft partner as well too. I mean, we just work in that ecosystem, so they would be able to understand the solutions that we provide to our clients. So definitely alignment with the partnership there. I think the industry is a big one as well too. So like we were just chatting about this as well. Like we do a lot of work in financial services. So if we're serving the same client base, I think it makes it easier to spot issues that our services would be able to help our clients overcome. So I think that's a big one as well too, of like if you are providing project management services, for example, you're probably running a technology project, and in that technology project there might be conversations that come up of, hey, I'm having some friction here in my process, or hey, these things are inefficient. And then on like the flip side as well too of what Jay's services. So like for us, his services are very value add to our clients, because if we're able to get QA and the product tested, then we know we're transitioning that product to the client as thorough as possible. So kind of looking at it from that lens as well too could be helpful.
Yeah, and Andrew, just to hop in a little bit on that, especially when you're choosing technology partners, I think we hit the technology partner lottery, right, at Tuck, right? We're a project management shop. I was talking to ClickUp for 3 years, right, before we actually we were always partners, but we weren't like real implementation partners until they decided that they were going to start outsourcing some of their professional services to their partners. And now, you know, what was great about that technology partnership was we're a project management shop. They're a project management tool. Like they work they're great for small businesses. They serve our ecosystem of clients, right? And I think as people think about what technology partners make sense for them, it's like, okay, what tools exist out there on the market that are either directly aligned with your services or adjacent to those services? And then how do you build that out and grow with those other companies? We're not really growing with ClickUp. ClickUp is way bigger than us, right? But we still get to ride that rocket ship that they're experiencing.
I think it's a great point. Just another point to add real quick. When I started out, I heard about partnerships, and so I started emailing, just like some dork that like doesn't have many people, and like I didn't know what I was doing, and I'm just like emailing, and like we made really good partnership relationships early on at JDAQA just by reaching out. So if anybody's out there and doesn't have any partnerships and they feel like they're just email people, just start reaching out. A lot of these companies have, partnership portals and pages and all that stuff, but there's smaller companies. And we started working with Ghost Inspector when they were very small. And that turned into a great relationship over the years. And now we're partnered with a bunch of different QA tools. And to your point, Alex, like once you start to figure that out, you start to figure out like, oh, these are the tools that people in our space are using, and you start to put the dots together where you go, well, they just want to make products, right? Like ClickUp just wants to make products. They don't want to be all these different things. They want a partner like Alex and a great, implementation partner like Alex. So the lead funnel from ClickUp to Alex makes a ton of sense, right? And the value he's providing back to their customers as an implementation partner is also a ton of value. So like if you start to figure out which tools in your space you may seem out of reach, I guess is my point. Just reach out to them and try to make connections with these companies, and you never know what it'll turn into down the road.
And so we've just been talking about like how we start these partnerships, but I think there's one other big thing that I want to touch on with that, at least one, is that how big do these networks get? Because like to Jay's point, like it's good to start, but just outreaching, finding compatible people that are value aligned and offer like a complementary product. But how large do you let that network grow? Alex, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'd love to take that one. It's interesting. Andrew, you and I went to the Ecosystem-Led Growth Conference down in Austin, put on by Crossbeam, or the Ecosystem-Led Growth Alliance. And there were some groups that had thousands and thousands and thousands of partners. And they were talking about the overhead that was associated with that, right? So basically, it was just like a scattershot approach to trying to tackle partnerships. And I really firmly believe, I mean, this is our OKR this quarter, right? I want us to have 30 really solid partners that can serve those 4 verticals that I talked about earlier, that provide adjacent services to what we provide. And I think that that's manageable. We can make sure that we stay at the top of each other's minds, and we can actually talk about that with all of our clients, right? Like the client actually has a need, and we don't have to go like search through like 1,000 different partners. We can actually say, oh, off the top of my head, I know the quality assurance thing, Jay's here. If there's BPA stuff on Microsoft ecosystem, Dalil's there. And it's so easy for me to rattle off every single one of my partners right now.
Well, Zaywin, I guess Dalil, you're one of my role models for networking. So I actually would like to know how you're doing it, because we have like HubSpot and that lives on my phone. But how are you doing it?
Yeah, I wish I was as structured as you guys. I know Alex has like he talks about the OKRs and stuff. I'm super informal. It's probably I probably could be a little bit better at it, but my thing is, hey, is the person in front of me have a problem and is there someone that I can connect them with that would help them solve that problem? And I don't know, I think it might just be like one of my skills that I have. I just have like a Rolodex in my head that I know like, hey, if I'm talking to this person and they have X problem, I'll immediately just think about like who in my network would I trust to introduce them to help them solve that problem. So I'm just a curious person. So I'm always asking a lot of questions in all types of conversations. And then through that, the thing that I'm usually looking for is like, hey, can I help solve that person's problem by introducing them to someone in my network? Because I know so many different people.
Yeah.
That's how I go about it.
I'm going to attest to that. Dalil has literally introduced me to 30 plus people, all of whom have added some value with us here at Tuck, which is incredible. Like that is not an exaggerated number. Jay's like at 15 or 20, and I feel like I'm constantly like trying to pull from that same Rolodex. Dalil's just got this like memory, like he's got this connector in his head, man.
Well, Batman, I'm Robin. He's the
Exactly.
the Batman of super connectors. I like that.
Yeah.
And I guess as partnerships manager, I'm like Alfred, right? Okay, so I guess this is where we shouldn't go into specifics, but I'm curious how everyone is prioritizing partners because again, like we only have so much time, we only have so much money. So how are we picking the winners? And I guess this is more for like services oriented because I think we've all outlined like which tech partners we picked. But what about for service partners? So Jay, I want to start with you on that. I know the Tuck is at the top of your list, but
What's the question exactly?
like,
How are we?
like, how do you prioritize which partners you spend the most time with?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think it's value add to customers and their footprint, their customer base footprint, right? Like, I mean, if we're just being completely honest here, like we're not going to spend a bunch of time developing a partnership with somebody who has one client, right? To use an extreme example, you want it to be kind of a mix of things, like we talked about at the beginning. It's a values alignment, it's a motivation and kind of passion for what they're doing. It's their clients, it's how they interact. Tuck is so high on our list because of how deeply involved and kind of passionate Alex is about the process and about ELG. And like even before Bob Moore's book came out and before like all that stuff, like Alex and I think we're starting to etch out like and we'd have monthly calls. We have a standing call every month, and he would always say like, I want to figure out how to work better as partners together. And that sort of mindset I think is key. So like that's not common. It's not like everybody doesn't have that mindset. So if you can connect to another executive in an organization that's a partner of yours and they share that, then they go to the top of the list. So you're not going to have a million of those anyway. So they kind of bubble up to the top organically, which is why, Tuck is up there on the list, and a couple of our other service partners who are really active in the partnership space. And it's not just about a little bit of conversation we were having beforehand. It's not about take. It's also about you see the people who want to give back, and like those are the ones that you can build a very reciprocal relationship with that can benefit everybody over the long term. So it's those guys who bubble up to the top are priority for us.
Yeah, and I mean, just to add to that, I mean, I think we actually, I think it's about how we each give and take from the relationship. It's not even just like one way or the other. For us, from a prioritization perspective, Andrew, you know this, like one of the key metrics that I want us to track is how many deals we send to our partners to specific partners. And that is a metric for us to understand whether the partnership is valuable for both sides. Right. And, most importantly for us, partnerships, like I have to believe that the quality is going to be really good. That I'm going to get the same like high quality from Jay and Dalil that I always have gotten historically. And I want to make sure that, it's a strategic alignment for the client. Right. And so like, that's who I prioritize more than anyone is like, obviously the values alignment's important, but like these two eat, breathe and live it. Right. And so do a handful of other strategic partners. But like, I want to make sure that like client is getting the most value, right? And that's the partnership that I'm getting. That's why ClickUp's so important to us. That's why, Rooks and JDAQ are. So.
Yeah, only other thing I would add, or I guess I know we talked about values a lot, but whenever I prioritize like who I provide intros to is I think about like my reputation personally as well too. And that's why I think to Alex's point, like quality is very high, because you don't want to introduce someone to a partner who isn't going to do high quality work. So that's the thing that I'm always looking for, and I'm always looking for that feedback as well too. So I'll circle back with the person that I gave an intro to and just be like, hey, how is it going with Alex? How is it going with Jay? Like, is everything working out? The answer is usually yes. But I'll do that for a lot of partners just to like even vet them further to ensure like my reputation's not being tarnished, because I feel responsible for providing that intro to them.
Like every single intro that I give to Jay and Dalil, like I get a response like, oh my God, Jay is amazing, or oh my goodness, like Dalil is just like a serial networker, and just like it's every single time. I don't even have to ask Dalil half the time. Like they just tell me, like after they're like, thank you so much for making that intro. So yeah, I totally agree, Dalil.
So I'm going to throw a philosophical question at the group. It's one that I think I haven't actually seen Bob Moore address a lot, or in his ELG book, or in when we saw him in Austin, and that's like, how formal do these relationships get? Like, I think right now, as I have been doing some reach out of our own to build our own our partner network, and I have gotten a ton of referral contracts in my inbox, and it seems like a lot of work. And so I'm wondering how everyone feels about formalizing that side of the relationship. Dalil, I'm gonna start with you.
Is the question, how do you prioritize the formalization of partnerships?
Should you? It's more like, should you? Does it make
Oh.
sense for you?
I've gone back and forth with that, to be quite honest. I mean, this year I'm prioritizing my time for partnerships intentionally.
Yeah.
I haven't formalized it as much as just kind of my style and where I'm at. And Alex had mentioned as well too, like being able to track and nurture and kind of manage those partnerships is very time consuming. So I always just go back to, hey, if I'm talking to someone and they have a problem, can someone that I know help them overcome that problem? I have been more intentional with, like, we talked about categorizations of partnerships. So I've been more intentional about that as well too. So like Alex and myself have been chatting a lot of, hey, how do we go to nonprofit? We work with nonprofits as well too. So like, is there an offering there that we could go together? Are there good intros that may make sense there? So trying to categorize those partnerships to make it easier to silo those intros. But I don't have a formal way that I do it today, outside of everything is kind of in my head. And I use my CRM as a big one as well too. So in the CRM, we use Dynamics. I have tags in there, and I flag it as partner. And then I have a partner type field where I provide more descriptions on the partner that's there. And that's usually where I go to nowadays.
Jay, how about you? What's your take on formal partnership agreements or referral agreements? Is that something you guys use, or something you guys work with?
As with most things in business, Alex is my who I want to be when I grow up. So I feel like I'm kind of in between Dalil and Alex. We use ClickUp, ironically enough, for our internal project management stuff, and so we have a board that's all our partnerships. We have kind of some different categories of approaching partnership or current partnership, or just kind of different phases of where they are. We do some tagging of them as well. We are actively maturing our partnership program. We have some contracts and stuff, but I think I've seen some people with some really cool decks, and I've shared some of those with some of you guys too, just to like show you where we could kind of get to with that. Your formal offering, showing people actual dollars and cents when you're on a call with them, and maybe a deck of some sort. I think you guys have one, but trying to mature it closer to what you guys have, I think is the way that we want to go going forward.
Yeah, and I mean, just for the audience sake, I'll talk a little bit about what we do, right? So, NDA goes in very early in the process, right? Whenever we think there's a good vibe with a potential partner, we know there's values alignment, the NDA goes in place, and then we can have really meaningful conversations about what does our ICP look like? What's the overlap look like, et cetera. And then we start to get a little bit more formal. One thing that we actually figured out, because we don't like taking referral revenue. Like it's not, there's not enough money there. Like, we'll take it if it's passed to us, but then we'll pass it along to our clients. And we've actually been spitballing, like actually just building that into our contracts to say, hey, look, if we introduce you to a client, 5% discount to the client, you guys just manage that yourselves. And I think that like figuring that stuff out is particularly interesting. I think it's what makes us a little unique. And I think that's what makes a lot of our partners also a little bit unique. And then we get into things like connecting with Crossbeam, right? Like understanding where we have overlapping clients, overlapping prospects. That stuff's all really interesting. And having some formal agreements in place with some of your folks that you're sharing a lot of information with, I think is particularly important, mainly just to protect your clients.
And I want to give a shout out to Stuart McCullough. You were the one that gave us your question that you submitted about whether or not we choose to clarify partnerships through contracts or agreements. I hope that gave you some insight into how these guys think. All right, we only have 4 minutes left, so this is another thing I wanted to talk about is how do you guys find partners? I mean, obviously, we talked about how in our various networks we're able to introduce people, but how do you find people in the wild to partner with? Jay, do you want to start with that one? Can you start with that one, please?
Yeah, I think tools is the easiest way to go. Like finding a tool that's in your space and attending a conference or going to, even Reddit could be a place. I know that's a little unofficial to say, but you just want to meet people that are in the space that are doing the same thing you're doing. So conferences, I met Dalil through Alex. Obviously, Alex and I met through doing some project work, so maybe a little bit of an unconventional path. But I think the easiest path for anybody who has none or very little and wants to start is like look at the tools in your space, make contacts, go to the conferences those people are at. Try to kind of abstract. Maybe the industry, like Dalil had mentioned earlier, like if it's a financial services kind of agency you run, then go to those conferences. You're going to meet a million agencies that do other things that are, loosely related to what you do and may serve the same customer. So, in-person networking, online networking, and then the tools thing, I think is the biggest thing for us.
Awesome. Dalil, Alex, you guys have anything to add to that?
I think Jay covered it perfectly, actually.
Yeah, I mean, like the biggest thing for me is just like referrals from other partners. I'm working with so many people now that Jay's introduced me to, and same thing with Dalil. It's just you don't try to like find a plumber in the phone book, right? Like you ask your neighbor who's a good plumber, and it's the same thing for our clients. It's the same thing for our partners. It's like referrals save you so much time, and it's almost guaranteed quality when you have someone, because like you don't want to blow that relationship with a client. You don't want to blow that relationship with a partner, right? So, I mean, just finding people that you trust and that they keep getting it right time after time, like just keep talking to them.
Only thing I would add to that is if you're trying to get an intro to a potential partner, then have your ask be very direct or clear. I feel like that makes it easier. So like if I'm meeting with Alex and there's someone that I want to get introduced to, then I just say like, hey, Alex, can you tee up an intro between me and Jay, because Jay is in the QA space and I think he'd add value to our clients. We'll love to just meet with him. So the more clear you could be on the intros, I think that tends to serve me well because it makes it easier on the person that's giving the intro.
Yes, just to jump on that, we keep jumping on each other. I have a partner that literally writes the paragraph for me.
Yep.
And then like sends it to me and says, hey, can you make this introduction to this person? I change it up a little bit, but like it saves me a lot of time, and it makes sure that like we all understand like what the expectations are with it.
Yeah.
All right. So with 1 minute left, I wanted to go do a round robin. So guys, where can people find you outside of this seminar? Jay, do you have like a podcast or a Twitter or LinkedIn feed you want to share?
like how you asked as if you didn't know, Andrew. You're a great host. You're a great host. Yes, I have a podcast. You can find on YouTube, The First Customer. You can find us at jdaqA.com, and then I'm on LinkedIn, JayAigner, even though I didn't put my last name on here, on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Adelia, how about you? Where can we find you?
So I live on LinkedIn. So if you want to give me an ad on LinkedIn, that would be great. I always suggest if you add me on LinkedIn, just put a little personalized note saying, "Hey, listen to your podcast," because I get way too many LinkedIn intros. But LinkedIn is a great place to find me.
And Alex,
Yep.
you want to talk about your own?
Yes, of course. Yep, Alex Tuck. You can find me on LinkedIn. I do also live on LinkedIn, like these two guys. And shameless plug. I'm wearing my Brain Freezer 5K shirt. I'm the co-founder of a small nonprofit called People Helping People Global, and we have this amazing race in downtown Burlington that runs on the shores of Lake Champlain. And it's September 14th, and you have to eat a pint of ice cream in the middle of the race. So yeah, can't
Is
beat
there a
that
dairy-free
at
option?
all. What's
Or
that?
is
Say
it-
that again.
is there
Oh,
a
not dairy-free option. Yes, there are dairy-free options. Yes. Thank you.
Folks, thank you for everyone that joined us. I really hope this added some value to you. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section. Take
Thanks.
care.